Before we begin, subscribe and tell us in the comments what city or country you're watching from. Tonight, a billionaire's fiancé will pour wine over an elderly man in front of an entire ballroom, and the quiet black maid who steps between them will reveal a past no one inside the mansion ever expected. Get your hands off my chair. Selene Marlowe's voice cut through the music. 72-year-old Walter Bennett sat in a wheelchair beside the head table. A recent stroke had weakened his left side. He had spent 40 years building the shipping company his son now controlled. That son, billionaire Lucas Bennett, was across the room speaking with investors. Selene stood over Walter in a silver gown, holding a glass of red wine. "You moved my place card," she said. Walter looked at the card now resting beside his plate. It was blocking the medication tray. "You embarrassed me in front of my guests. They are Lucas's guests." Her smile vanished. Near the service doors, black maid Tiana Cole stopped carrying a tray. She had worked at Bennett House for only 3 weeks. Selene believed silence meant obedience. Neither knew Tiana had spent 6 years training diplomatic security teams in medical evacuation, threat detection, and nonviolent restraint before a shoulder injury ended her field career. Her younger sister needed legal help after being falsely blamed for a Bennett shipping warehouse accident, and Tiana had entered the mansion searching for records. She had not expected to find Walter being abused. Selene leaned down. "You will apologize." Walter raised his good hand. "For moving paper. For forgetting your place." Tiana began walking toward them. Walter saw her and gave a tiny shake of his head. He was warning her not to interfere. Selene lifted the wine. "Perhaps this will help you remember." She poured it over Walter's white dinner jacket. Guests gasped. Red liquid ran across his chest and onto the blanket covering his knees. Walter closed his eyes. Tiana reached Selene before the empty glass touched the table. She caught Selene's wrist. "Let go of me," Selene hissed. "Step away from him. You are staff. And he is a human being." Selene tried to pull free. Tiana rotated her wrist just enough to release the glass without hurting her. The crystal dropped neatly into Tiana's other hand. The movement was precise. Selene stared at her. "What did you just do?" "Prevented you from striking him with the glass." "I was putting it down." "No." Your elbow shifted backward, your grip tightened, and your weight moved onto your right foot. Lucas hurried to the table. "What happened?" Selene turned toward him instantly. "Your maid attacked me." Tiana released her and stepped beside Walter. Lucas looked at the wine soaking his father's clothing. "Dad?" Walter did not answer. His breathing had changed. Tiana noticed before anyone else. The left side of his mouth had dropped. His fingers were curling inward. She placed the tray aside and knelt. "Mr. Bennett, look at me. Can you lift your right arm?" Walter tried. It fell. Lucas moved closer. "Is he having another stroke?" "Possibly. Call emergency services and tell them symptom onset was less than 1 minute ago." Selene frowned. "He is being dramatic." Tiana looked up sharply. "He needs treatment now." She checked Walter's pupils, loosened his collar, and carefully supported his head. Lucas grabbed his phone. "How do you know this?" "Because I'm trained." "In what?" "Protective medicine and emergency extraction." Selene laughed nervously. "She is a maid." Tiana kept her attention on Walter. "That is my job. It is not the limit of what I know." Walter's eyes shifted toward his medication tray. One compartment stood open. Tiana noticed white powder around the edge of his evening tablet. "Who prepared this?" Selene answered too quickly. "The nurse." The private nurse, Mrs. Doyle, appeared from behind the guests. "No, you told me you had already given him the pill." Lucas looked at Selene. "You handled his medication?" "He asked me to." Walter tried to speak, but only one word escaped. "No." Tiana lifted the tablet with a clean spoon. A bitter almond smell rose from it. Her expression changed. "This isn't his prescription." Selene stepped backward. Lucas stared at her. "What did you give him?" "Nothing." Tiana saw Selene's clutch lying open on the table. Inside was an identical pill packet and a small silver device. She reached for it. Selene slapped her hand away. Tiana caught the strike, turned, and guided Selene face down against the table without twisting her arm beyond a safe angle. "Release me," Selene screamed. Tiana removed the silver device from the clutch. It was not a phone. It was a wireless medication dispenser programmed to release timed doses. The screen displayed Walter Bennett's name. Below it appeared a second name, Lucas Bennett. The next scheduled dose was set for midnight. Lucas read the screen twice. "You planned to drug both of us?" Selene's face went pale. Before she could answer, every security door in the ballroom locked at once. The chandeliers went dark. A man's voice came through the speakers. Tiana Cole should have stayed out of Bennett business. Tiana froze. No one in the mansion knew her real surname was connected to the warehouse case. Then the voice continued. "Bring me Walter's medication file, or your sister dies before the ambulance arrives." Emergency lights glowed while the ballroom doors remained sealed. Tiana kept Selene pinned against the table and held the wireless dispenser in her other hand. Lucas stood beside his father, staring at the speaker above the dark chandeliers. "Show me my sister," Tiana said. The man's voice returned. "Release Selene first." Tiana looked down at the woman beneath her. Selene watched the medication dispenser. "You know him," Tiana said. Selene said nothing. Tiana stopped her from reaching for the device. "Who is he?" Selene finally whispered, "Gideon Price." Lucas looked up sharply. Gideon Price had once been chief risk officer for Bennett Shipping. 3 years earlier, he vanished after auditors discovered missing injury reports and falsified safety inspections. He had supervised the warehouse where Tiana's sister, Maya Cole, was accused of disabling an emergency brake before a platform collapsed. Maya said Gideon framed her, Tiana said. Lucas's jaw tightened. "My legal team told me the evidence against her was overwhelming." "Your legal team worked for the people who created it." Walter made a weak sound from the wheelchair. Tiana immediately returned to him. His breathing remained shallow, but the paralysis had slowed. "The tablet was designed to imitate a stroke," she said. "If the ambulance reaches him soon, he may recover." Lucas pressed the emergency release panel near the wall. Nothing happened. Gideon's voice came again. "You have 12 minutes before the next dose activates inside Walter's dispenser." A red timer on the silver device counted down. 11:42. "The dose is already inside him?" Lucas asked. "No. The dispenser controls something else." She checked Walter's wrist. Beneath his watch was a small adhesive patch with a hidden needle. Selene closed her eyes. Lucas saw it. "You put that on him." "She told me it was a glucose monitor," Selene said. Tiana removed the patch into an empty glass. Clear liquid collected beneath the needle. "Timed transdermal delivery," she said. The pill distracted everyone while the real compound entered through his skin. Lucas looked at Selene. "How long have you been dosing him?" "I didn't know what was in it. You poured wine over my father and called him confused. I needed people to believe he was unstable." Walter's fingers moved weakly. Tiana leaned close. "What are you trying to say?" His lips formed one word. "File." Gideon wanted Walter's medication file because it contained more than prescriptions. Tiana looked at the tray. Each compartment carried handwritten notes in Walter's script. Beneath the evening section, he had written, "B7, 14, cold room." Lucas frowned. "That is not medical notation." "Warehouse storage code," Tiana said. Maya had described a restricted cold room beneath Dock 7. Workers were told it held chemicals, but she believed it contained accident records. Walter had found the same clue. Gideon's voice sharpened. "Bring the file to the West Service corridor." Tiana looked toward the doors. "You're inside the mansion." Silence. Then a metallic sound came from behind the speaker system. Someone was moving through the walls. Lucas ordered a search of the service shafts, but the radios produced only static. Tiana handed the medication patch to the private nurse. Keep this sealed. If Walter loses consciousness, tell the paramedics exposure began less than 10 minutes ago. How are paramedics supposed to enter? Lucas asked. They won't, Selene said quietly. Not through the front. Everyone turned toward her. There is an old catering tunnel beneath the ballroom. It connects to the greenhouse. Lucas stared at her. You knew we had another exit. Gideon told me to keep it secret. Where is it? Selene looked at Tiana. Release me, and I'll show you. No. Tiana, Lucas said, my father needs medical help. She can guide us while restrained. Selene gave a bitter laugh. You trust the maid more than your fiancé? Lucas glanced at Walter, then at the dispenser programmed with both their names. Yes. That silenced her. Tiana secured Selene's wrists with a linen tie and forced her to walk ahead. They crossed behind the orchestra platform, where Selene pressed a hidden latch beneath the molding. A section of wall opened. Cold air entered the ballroom. The tunnel was narrow. Lucas and 2 guards carried Walter while Tiana led. Halfway through, they found a man unconscious beside a maintenance panel. Officer Dean, one of Lucas's oldest security employees. A puncture wound marked his neck. His access badge was missing. Gideon entered using Dean's identity, Tiana said. She found an injection needle cap. The same blue color used by the medical team that treated Walter after his first stroke. This was planned long before tonight. Lucas looked at Selene. Who arranged my father's rehabilitation team? She refused to answer. Tiana stopped walking. Every second you protect Gideon is another second Walter remains poisoned. Selene looked back at the elderly man being carried through the tunnel. My brother arranged it. Lucas froze. You told me you were an only child. My legal name is not Selene Marlowe. Silence followed. My name is Serena Price, she said. Gideon is my older brother. Lucas stared at her. You entered my life for him. At first. And later. She looked away. That doesn't matter now. Tiana opened the greenhouse exit. Paramedics rushed forward and took Walter. Lucas started after them, but Tiana caught his sleeve. A dark vehicle waited beyond the garden wall with its lights off. The rear door stood open. Inside, Maya was tied to a chair. Gideon stepped into view holding a syringe against her neck. His other hand held a tablet showing Doc 7. Rows of injured workers sat inside the warehouse cold room. Bring me Walter's file, Gideon said, or I trigger the same compound in every patch they are wearing. Tiana looked at Maya. Her sister shook her head desperately. Then Walter's medication file vibrated in Lucas's hand. A hidden screen lit beneath the cover. One final message appeared in Walter's handwriting. Do not give him the file. It is the key. Tiana stared at the glowing message beneath Walter's medication file. Do not give him the file. It is the key. Across the garden wall, Gideon kept a syringe against Maya's neck. Behind him, his tablet showed injured warehouse workers trapped inside Doc 7's cold room, each wearing a medical patch linked to the same dosing system used on Walter. 3 minutes, Gideon called. Then I activate the first patch. Lucas tightened his grip on the file. What kind of key is this? Tiana opened the leather cover. Beneath Walter's handwritten schedule was a thin electronic strip wired into the spine. Walter turned his medical file into an access device, she said. These notes are security commands. Selene looked toward Gideon's tablet. My brother needs it to unlock the original accident archive. Lucas faced her. What archive? Worker injuries, false safety reports, secret payments, everything Bennett shipping buried. My company didn't bury them. Your executives did. Gideon built the system, but someone above him approved it. Gideon raised the syringe. Time. Tiana took the file from Lucas and stepped toward the wall. You heard Walter's warning, Lucas said. I did. Then why are you carrying it to him? I'm not giving it to him. Tiana walked toward Gideon, studying his hands and the open vehicle. You came for the file, she said. Release my sister. Bring it closer. Let her walk halfway. Gideon smiled. You're not negotiating from strength. You need what I'm holding. That is strength. He cut one of Maya's wrist ties and shoved her forward. One hand remained bound to a broken wooden armrest. Tiana approached. Maya looked at her and whispered, "The patches aren't the only trigger." Gideon struck her shoulder. "Quiet." Tiana stopped. What does she mean? Maya raised the armrest. Tiny metal contacts were embedded beneath it. Every chair in Dock 7 is wired. If the cold room warms too quickly, the contacts release the dose. Lucas heard her from behind the wall. He rigged the rescue system. Gideon smiled. Fire crews enter, heaters activate, witnesses die. Tiana lifted the file as though surrendering it. Then she threw it high over Gideon's head. He instinctively released Maya and reached upward. Tiana moved. She caught his syringe wrist, turned beneath his arm, and drove his hand against the vehicle roof. The syringe fell into the snow. Maya swung the armrest into Gideon's knee. He collapsed. Lucas and security rushed forward. Gideon pulled a second trigger from his coat. Selene saw it first. His left hand. She slammed into her brother before he could press it. The trigger slid beneath the vehicle. Security pinned Gideon face down while Tiana freed Maya. "Are you hurt?" "Not badly. But the cold room's backup generator is failing." Lucas recovered Walter's file. "Tell us how to use it." Maya examined the notes. B7 means Dock 7. 14 is the hidden service bay beneath the old freezer warehouse. Darius arrived with police. The tablet screen went black. Then every patch indicator turned red. Gideon laughed into the snow. "Remote activation has begun. Arresting me changes nothing." Tiana knelt beside him. "You called Walter's file the archive key twice. Not the dosing key. The archive contains the cancellation protocol." His smile faded. Selene looked at his hand. "He touches his ring whenever he lies." Tiana removed Gideon's black signet ring. A tiny memory chip was hidden inside. Maya recognized it. "That opens the patient monitoring network." Gideon struggled. "Do not insert it into anything." Tiana stood. "Thank you for confirming it." They left him with police and raced toward Dock 7. Walter's ambulance followed. His condition had stabilized after paramedics removed the patch, though he remained too weak to speak. Bay 14 looked abandoned, its windows boarded and doors frozen shut. Walter's file began pulsing. Tiana followed the signal beneath the loading platform, where a steel hatch lay under thick ice. The ring chip opened the first lock. Walter's file opened the second. Cold air rushed upward. They descended into an underground chamber. Beyond a reinforced window, injured workers sat shivering under emergency lights. A temperature display read 26 degrees Fahrenheit. Below it flashed. Patch release at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The backup generator showed 9 minutes remaining. "We can move them through the transfer hatch one at a time," Maya said, "but not until the patches are disarmed." Tiana inserted Gideon's chip into the monitoring console. A password prompt appeared. Walter's file displayed another handwritten clue. "Eleanor, first promise." Lucas froze. "My mother's name. What was her first promise?" Tiana asked. "No worker becomes invisible because a balance sheet says they are inconvenient." He entered the sentence. "Access denied." Maya searched the console. "It needs something shorter." Lucas remembered the engraving inside his mother's wedding ring. "No one left behind." He typed it. The network opened. Every patch appeared on screen. Tiana selected disarm. The system requested final authorization from Walter Bennett. They carried a microphone to the ambulance. Walter opened his eyes, but the compound had left his voice too weak. "Dad," Lucas said, "we need the authorization phrase." Walter tried to speak. Nothing came. The generator timer dropped below 5 minutes. Tiana checked the file again. Walter had anticipated losing his voice. A hidden message appeared. "Use the truth he refused to hear." Lucas stared at him. "What truth?" Walter lifted one trembling finger and pointed at Lucas. Mrs. Doyle opened a concealed pocket in the file and removed an audio card. Lucas inserted it into the console. Walter's recorded voice filled the chamber. "Lucas, if you hear this, Gideon has used my silence against you. The warehouse crimes were approved under your executive seal." "I never approved them," Lucas whispered. A document appeared on screen. 5 years earlier, Lucas had approved a cost reduction program transferring injured workers to Gideon's private recovery division. He had never read the attached medical control clause. His signature had created the system. The temperature reached 29 degrees. Walter's recording continued. "Your signatures were later copied, but the first authorization was genuine. Responsibility begins where excuses end." The console waited. Lucas looked through the glass at the workers suffering inside a program his carelessness had allowed. Then he leaned toward the microphone. "I approved the system that harmed them. I failed to read what my power allowed others to do. I accept responsibility." The console turned green. Every patch disarmed. The transfer hatch opened. Tiana, Maya, and the rescue team pulled the workers through one by one, wrapping them in insulated blankets without warming the chamber too quickly. The last worker had just crossed when alarms screamed. A hidden archive door opened behind the empty chairs. Hundreds of accident files filled the room. Then a video monitor activated. A woman sat restrained in another location. Lucas recognized her instantly. His mother, Eleanor Bennett, was alive. Beside her stood the person who had secretly directed Gideon for 5 years. Walter's private physician, Dr. Marcus Vale, looked into the camera and smiled. "You saved the workers," he said. "Now decide whether exposing the truth is worth losing your mother again." Lucas stared at the monitor, unable to breathe. His mother had been declared dead 4 years earlier after a private medical transfer. He had stood beside a sealed coffin and blamed himself for not reaching the hospital sooner. Now Eleanor Bennett sat alive beneath a fluorescent light, thinner and older, but unmistakably herself. "Where is she?" Lucas demanded. Marcus smiled. "Somewhere your company owns but never inspects." Tiana stepped toward the console. "The video is live. Find the signal source." Maya connected Gideon's ring chip to the archive network. Lines of location data moved across the screen, then disappeared. "He's bouncing the signal through Bennett shipping terminals," she said. "Dozens of possible sites." Walter's medication file vibrated again. A final compartment opened inside the spine. It contained a photograph of Eleanor standing beside a hospital ship named Mercy Dawn. On the back, Walter had written, "She never left the water." Lucas looked toward the river beyond Dock 7. "The Mercy Dawn was retired years ago." "Not retired," Selene said. "My brother arranged its transfer to a shell company. It has been anchored beyond the freight channel ever since." Tiana faced Darius. "Get Marine Police there now." Marcus spoke through the monitor. "Send officers," and Eleanor receives the 4th tone. He lifted a transmitter. A patch was visible beneath Eleanor's collar. Lucas's fists tightened. "What do you want?" "The accident archive, Walter's file, and your resignation from Bennett Shipping. You will name me temporary medical trustee. You want control of the company? I want control of every contract connected to worker rehabilitation. Employers pay generously to make liability disappear." Tiana studied Eleanor's face. Her eyes were not fixed on Marcus. They moved repeatedly toward a metal cabinet behind him. 3 times left. Twice right. Then down. She was signaling. "Tiana," Maya whispered, "that cabinet may control the patches." Marcus heard her. He turned, but Eleanor kicked the cabinet door with both feet. It opened, revealing a row of wireless transmitters. Marcus struck her. Lucas lunged toward the screen as if he could reach through it. Tiana remained focused. "Eleanor gave us the transmitter layout. The ship system may be linked to the network here." Maya searched the archive console and found a hidden marine medical channel. 12 active patches appeared, including Eleanor's. "They're not only holding her," Maya said. 11 more patients are on that ship. Marcus had kept the most important witnesses offshore. Tiana inserted Walter's file into the console. The network requested a trustee override. Only Marcus possessed it. Selene looked at Gideon, who had been brought into the chamber under police guard. "You know the code." He laughed. "My sister finally wants to save people." She stepped closer. "I helped you threaten them. I helped you enter Lucas's life. I will answer for that. But I will not let you protect the man who used us both." Gideon said nothing. Selene looked at his signet ring. The chip was incomplete. Marcus kept the trustee code in the family crest, didn't he? Tiana examined the ring's empty setting. Beneath it was a sequence engraved so faintly it looked decorative. Maya entered the numbers. The marine channel unlocked. Marcus's smile vanished on the monitor. Tiana selected every offshore patch and pressed disarm. A warning appeared. Physical relay required. The command had reached the Mercy Dawn, but someone aboard had to pull the medical relay within 90 seconds. Eleanor saw the same warning on the screen. Marcus grabbed her chair and dragged it away from the cabinet. She threw her weight sideways. The chair struck his knees, and the transmitter fell. On the archive monitor, a second camera activated. A narrow maintenance corridor ran beneath the ship's treatment room. Tiana recognized the layout. Emergency extraction route. I trained teams on hospital vessels with the same design. She grabbed a radio. "Marine unit, enter through the stern intake. Do not use the main deck." Darius relayed the instructions. The screen showed officers climbing through the intake as Marcus recovered the transmitter. He pressed the fourth tone command. Nothing happened. The patches had entered relay mode and could not receive the signal until the 90-second window closed. Tiana guided the officers through it from the old structural diagram stored in Walter's file. Second ladder. Turn left at the oxygen room. The relay should be behind a red pressure panel. The timer dropped below 20 seconds. An officer tore open the panel and pulled the lever. All 12 patches shut down. Marcus tried to inject Eleanor with a syringe, but she caught his wrist. The ship's door burst open, and officers dragged him away before the needle touched her. Lucas did not move until the live feed showed his mother breathing safely. Then his knees nearly gave way. By dawn, the Mercy Dawn was under federal control. 11 hidden patients were rescued, along with years of medical records proving that Marcus Vale had falsified deaths, altered prescriptions, and used Bennett shipping facilities to test compounds on injured workers. Eleanor was brought ashore in a wheelchair. Lucas approached slowly, afraid the moment might disappear. She touched his face. "You finally read the truth your father left you." Lucas looked at Walter's ambulance. "Dad knew you were alive." He suspected. Marcus threatened to kill the offshore patients if Walter spoke openly, so he hid the path inside his medication file. Walter was transported to the hospital beside her. He fully survived the poisoning and later regained his speech. Marcus, Gideon, and the corrupt security officers were charged with kidnapping, attempted murder, illegal medical experimentation, fraud, and conspiracy. Marcus received multiple life sentences. Selene confessed to entering Lucas's life under a false identity, helping Gideon manipulate the household and assisting with Walter's medication system. Her decision to stop the trigger and expose the network saved lives, but it did not erase her crimes. She accepted prison and surrendered her assets to the victims' fund. Lucas admitted that his careless approval had created the first recovery program. He resigned as sole executive chairman and placed Bennett Shipping under independent worker oversight. Maya's warehouse conviction was overturned. Every injured employee received treatment, compensation, and the right to reopen their case. Tiana was offered command of Bennett Security. She declined. "I did not enter your house to become another person protecting power," she told Lucas. "I want to protect the people power usually ignores." The workers elected her director of an independent safety division no Bennett executive could overrule. Months later, Walter attended its opening beside Eleanor. Lucas stood with them, not at the front, but among the employees. A reporter asked Tiana when Lucas first realized she had secret training. She smiled. When I stopped Selene from striking Walter. Lucas shook his head. No. I realized who she was when she protected my father before knowing whether I would believe her. Tiana had entered the mansion searching for evidence to clear her sister. She left having exposed a criminal medical network, reunited a family, and forced a billionaire to surrender the unchecked authority that made the conspiracy possible. Her training saved lives that night. But the courage to challenge cruelty in a crowded ballroom was what changed everything.